tonight on 24, the U.S. president emphasizes stopping the Islamic Republic. Donald Trump says he won't let Iran's evil empire destroy the world by acquiring nuclear weapons. Smart micro-drones flying over checkpoints. Iran International's exclusive report on new Israeli army equipment for surveillance, identification, and attacking suppression centers.
Do not allow yourselves to be used as human shields. Prevent it.
Prince Reza Pahlavi warns people to stay away from suppression centers. In a special message to government employees, he said not to show up for work and to use their resources to support the people. And the release of the first message attributed to Mojtaba Khamenei, repeating the IRGC's war slogans. The new leader of the Islamic Republic has emphasized closing the Strait of Hormuz and continuing attacks on regional countries.
From the Iran International Studio, this is 24 with Fardad Farahzad.
Hello and good evening to Iran International viewers in Iran and around the world. As the US-Israel war against the Islamic Republic enters its 13th day, the US president has once again emphasized on the social media platform Truth Social that his administration's main priority is the issue of Iran and preventing the country from acquiring nuclear weapons. Donald Trump said in this message that rising oil prices are important to him, but what's far more important to him is preventing an empire he calls evil, meaning Iran, from acquiring nuclear weapons. Trump warned that this could pose a serious threat to the Middle East and even the world. Meanwhile, the Israeli army, by releasing these new images of new targeted airstrikes in Iran, says its goal in attacking checkpoints and besieged unit forces is to further weaken the foundations of suppression in Iran. The Israeli army, referring to the suppression of recent protests by security forces and besieged, said that individuals who behave this way towards their own people are also considered a major threat to the people of the region. Our correspondent Vizal Mohaddis from Jerusalem and Samira Gharaei from the White House in Washington are with us. Samira, I'll start with you. The International Energy Agency has called these events happening in the Middle East the biggest fossil energy crisis in modern history. But Mr. Trump doesn't seem too worried about this crisis, at least from the perspective that he doesn't think it will last very long.
No, he's not worried either, Fardad, because he strongly believes the United States will make more money since the country is actively producing its own oil. This alarming story concerning the International Energy Agency that you're referring to is highly significant. They announced today that they haven't seen such a massive disruption in global oil distribution throughout modern history. Truly, this is the very first time something of this magnitude is happening. We know that just this Thursday morning, the Islamic Republic deliberately targeted 2 Iraqi oil tankers. Consequently, vital oil terminals in Oman and Iraq have been shut down. All of this has disrupted oil distribution. Plus, in recent days, well, a lot of things happened in the Strait of Hormuz. And in the past 2 or 3 days, all of this is really reaching a peak of tension. On this side, well, these crises have now emerged for the United States. They say it's unprecedented in history. What will the United States do as one side of this war? Mr. Trump's post on Truth Social says that for him personally, it's more important and he's more interested in dealing with Iran than the oil issue. Mr. Trump explicitly says that while we, as a major domestic oil producer, are currently benefiting financially from the global increase in oil prices, confronting the evil empire of the Islamic Republic remains vastly more important and interesting to him. He stated that he won't let the Islamic Republic get its hands on nuclear weapons to destroy the Middle East, or ultimately to destroy the world. This definitive statement could be like his final word on the subject. Mr. Trump could make his case completely regarding exactly what he'll do about the complex oil issue. Whereas here, the media, well, they're really focusing heavily on this critical issue of rising oil prices, which consequently, here in the United States, could lead to a sharp rise in the price of everything, especially everyday goods. And, well, right now, Mr. Trump is under intense pressure regarding this broader affordability issue. How much ordinary working people in America can actually afford their daily necessities, and whether they can manage to pay for them without struggling. But his stance is clear. In the past few days, Mr. Trump has also talked a lot about this this evil empire. He says that our problem with the Islamic Republic isn't their policies. Our problem is their philosophy, their existential philosophy. And he's had a lot of these kinds of talks. He's referred to 47 years of killing, and this shows that he has another plan for the Islamic Republic, and he won't abandon that plan because of rising oil prices. This is what it seems like here. And just to briefly mention an interesting point, the discussion about public opinion, whether people agreed or disagreed, anyway, there was a lot of talk about it here in the United States. Because we had Operation Hammer and Midnight, because perhaps not enough explanation was given to the American people before this operation, many believed this war was very unpopular. But the Washington Post went and conducted a survey of 1,000 Americans, asking about their agreement or disagreement. Now, the number of people who agree with a U.S. attack has increased. 42% agree, 40% disagree. But regarding the continuation of the attacks, today, as we stand here, we're seeing that those people who, for example, believed on March 1st that the attacks should stop, have gradually changed their minds and are now inclined towards the attacks continuing. This could, in the next few days that we have ahead of us, we know, tensions will rise even higher because of the oil issue. This public opinion discussion could be influential tomorrow.
Reza, and over there in Israel, it seems that the country's army is using new methods, especially to strike at centers of repression in Iran.
Exactly as you say, Farzad. But before we delve into that, let me start by saying we expect Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, to begin his highly anticipated first press conference in just a few minutes. This marks his initial public address since the start of the joint operation conducted by the United States and Israel in support of the Iranian people. The briefing was originally supposed to happen at 8:15 p.m. Jerusalem time, but it is already 8:30 p.m. now. I think we will have to wait a few more minutes for this crucial press conference to officially begin. As you correctly pointed out earlier, that's absolutely right. This ongoing initiative is utilizing completely new tactical methods and innovative ways to strategically target the Basaj forces. Just an hour ago, the Israeli military released a formal statement confirming that yesterday they targeted heavily armed Basij forces operating within several areas of Tehran. According to the release, these paramilitary units had established numerous security checkpoints across various parts of the capital and other cities. This armed presence was reportedly creating significant obstacles and daily disruptions for the civilian population. To substantiate these claims, the Israeli army also published detailed video footage demonstrating exactly how these forces were tracked and subsequently targeted. Farzad, one of the official spokespersons for the Israeli army, provided a comprehensive report today detailing what has transpired over the past 13 days of this intense war. As our 13th day slowly comes to an end, the statistics reveal a massive scale of engagement. He reported that over 7,000 hours of operational flights were carried out by Israeli army fighter jets during this time frame. Furthermore, he noted that over 4,200 combat sorties actively attacked 3,400 strategic military targets, which notably included 750 key targets located within Tehran. Crucially, he emphasized that more than 2/3 of the Islamic Republic's active ballistic missile launchers have been effectively targeted. Most of the Islamic Republic's critical air defense systems have been systematically targeted and incapacitated. Furthermore, referencing what we were extensively talking about a few days ago on your show, it is currently estimated that a staggering 80 to 83% of the Islamic Republic's ballistic missile launchers have been successfully targeted and destroyed. Consequently, he also referred to a significant change in the Islamic Republic's overall military strategy regarding their procedures for launching remaining ballistic. He was explaining that during the 12-day war, heavy barrages were typical, with many missiles launched towards Israel simultaneously during each attack. However, he noted that this time the situation is noticeably different. While the overall frequency of launches remains high, very rarely are large clusters of missiles directed towards Israel. Instead, there are just 1 or 2 projectiles per launch. He provided a clear statistical example, stating that in the 12-day war, a staggering 600 missiles and hundreds of drones were fired. Conversely, in this 13-day period, just over 200 missiles were fired towards Israel. We also know that the vast majority of these initial events occurred precisely 2 Saturdays ago, with some additional engagements happening 2 Sundays ago. These dates are highly significant, marking the chaotic first and second days of the war's beginning. On the ground, the tactical shift is palpable. I can definitely tell you that this recent reduction in incoming projectiles, specifically the sharp decline in the Islamic Republic's missile launches in this area, is completely noticeable and brings immense relief. Furthermore, CENTCOM recently released a concise operational report outlining exactly what it targeted. The briefing confirmed they successfully hit an astonishing 6,000 targets over just 13 days, actively engaging approximately 90 ships and neutralizing 30 of the Islamic Republic's specialized mine-laying vessels, heavily patrolling the strategic waters of the Persian Gulf.
Thank you to both of you, Reza Mohaddis in Jerusalem and Samira Garai from the White House in Washington, D.C. Jamshid Barzagar, journalist and political analyst, has also joined us from London. Mr. Barzagar, it seems that the Islamic Republic government has been severely weakened, but for whatever reason, on the 13th day of the war, it still hasn't collapsed. What else do you think is needed? And is this a legitimate concern that this war might drag on, that the Islamic Republic might weaken, but still continue to survive?
Greetings to you, Mr. Farzad. Look, yes, I acknowledge that specific concerns certainly exists among observers, but it is undeniably diminishing day by day as new developments unfold. Many of Mr. Trump's staunchest critics, for example, even if they harbor deep doubts or frequently criticize the apparent ambiguity in his long-term policies and strategic goals in this ongoing war, or highlight his seemingly contradictory and sometimes inconsistent statements during his brief conversations with reporters, they all actually agree on one fundamental point. That point is that the strategic military operation currently being carried out jointly by Israel and the United States against the Islamic Republic is a highly significant and perhaps entirely unprecedented success. Today, we can clearly see that both Israel and the US have completely gained absolute operational control over Iran's skies, effectively neutralizing prior aerial threats. Practically, nothing is left of the Islamic Republic's Air Force and Navy. The Islamic Republic's air defense and its radar systems have been completely destroyed, and the only thing that's left, perhaps, is the ground forces, and even then, in such a way that they practically won't be able to use their motorized and armored forces. In fact, the remaining ground forces are armed at most with machine guns or submachine guns. They, too, have been driven out of their headquarters, centers, and command posts. Those vital operational centers have either been completely destroyed by strikes or have been hastily evacuated for fear of actually being targeted next. Consequently, these displaced forces have been deployed in makeshift hiding spots, under bridges, in crowded streets, in mosques, in stadiums, schools, and various other populated civilian locations. So there is absolutely no doubt that the Islamic Republic's military forces have suffered a very serious and undeniably crippling defeat. They have lost their main command ranks, and at the top of them, the commander-in-chief. Furthermore, it remains fundamentally unclear exactly what situation his presumed successor, Ali Khamenei's son Mojtaba, is currently in. His recently released highly ambiguous, confused, and scattered written message has actually only increased these ambiguities regarding his true status. Therefore, what is absolutely certain is that the Islamic Republic's overall offensive and defensive military power has been significantly weakened. Perhaps the most important strategic tool they currently have left at their disposal is their lingering control over the critical Strait of Hormuz, alongside the disruptive attacks they routinely carry out on international oil tankers navigating those waters. However, according to the latest official statistics they recently announced, over 90 Islamic Republic ships and naval vessels have already been severely damaged or completely destroyed in just these past 13 days. Consequently, it strongly seems that in the coming days, this remaining naval firepower in the Strait of Hormuz will also decrease. In addition to that, there are increasingly targeted attacks being carried out against the regime's repressive forces, the very units that just 2 months ago ruthlessly committed the biggest street massacre in Iran. Well, this growing resistance too will severely weaken, in fact, the fragile morale of security forces still loyal to the Islamic Republic. In short, if I want to tell you the reality, it's true that the government hasn't completely collapsed yet, but it's really on the absolute verge of collapse.
Thank you, Jamshid Barzagar, London journalist and analyst. We are currently receiving live images from Michigan, situated near the city of Detroit. Michigan State Police have officially reported a shooting incident at a well-known synagogue in West Bloomfield. Police authorities confirmed that the armed individual involved in the shooting incident at one of the largest Jewish synagogues in the state has been killed. This tragic shooting occurred on Thursday evening. No further details about the shooter's motive or any potential additional casualties have been released to the public so far. You're seeing live images. Given the developments in the Middle East, there are a lot of concerns about whether incidents like these could be related to the current conflicts in Iran or not. According to information obtained by Iran International, Israel is using a new method of launching swarm drones to target the IRGC's suppression units. Based on this information, the Israeli army is utilizing artificial intelligence and computer guidance to operate this weapon system. In this new method, an aerial platform is used as a mother launcher to deploy the drones, allowing for reconnaissance and target identification.
You guys are awesome. Tehran, you rock. Grandma, you're the best. You guys are awesome.
Let's also take a look at some of the images related to the attacks in Iran from the past hour.
Here, a factory in Parand industrial town was hit and is currently burning.
There are 4 planes above it. What news is going to break tonight? It arrived. Here's another one, too. Another one.
Farzan Nadimi, Washington Institute Senior Fellow for Defense and Security, joins us from this city. Mr. Nadimi, naturally, we don't have anyone on the ground, and the images coming from Iran are limited, but there are indications that it seems technologies are being used, or specifically artificial intelligence is being used in a way that perhaps hasn't been seen or has been seen less in other wars until recently.
Yes, Israel has been actively using AI for command and control operations and guiding advanced aerial weapons for years, and it implements this technology in multiple integrated layers. As I mentioned earlier, sophisticated AI-based command and control networks enable faster decision-making. There's also the strategic teaming of traditional manned aircraft and unmanned platforms, which are closely connected to each other to share real-time battlefield data. The first operational layer, which consists of these very small, agile drones designed specifically for tactical applications, is highly effective in complex urban warfare scenarios. Furthermore, these compact systems were widely utilized by Israeli ground units and soldiers during the recent Gaza war, which significantly enhanced their situational awareness in densely populated areas. By integrating advanced AI systems, these highly capable drones, which fly in large interconnected swarms, can seamlessly coordinate with each other on the battlefield. They dynamically transfer acquired targets to one another in real time. For instance, if one of these scouting drones finds a target and identifies that another drone is situated closer, it instantly transfers the targeting data. That closer drone then swiftly descends and hits its specific target, carrying small amounts of effective explosives. Furthermore, these intelligent swarms simultaneously conduct continuous reconnaissance and extensive surveillance missions, gathering critical intelligence without pause. In the medium operational stage, there are specialized medium drones that are physically carried and strategically deployed by much larger unmanned aerial vehicles, specifically including the Hermes 450, Hermes 900, and also the widely used Heron. There are 3 distinct types of advanced unmanned aerial vehicles developed by Israel that serve both strategic and tactical combat purposes. While they inherently possess versatile tactical capabilities, their deployment in a potential conflict with Iran transforms them into a critical strategic application due to the exceptionally long operational distances involved. These formidable aircraft can transport a customized payload of up to 16 smaller drones. Depending on mission requirements, they typically carry 12 to 16 internal drones, known as the Green Dragon. These miniature drones boast a flight endurance of approximately an hour and a half and are released directly near the designated target. They have a range of 2 to 50 kilometers. They can fly for an hour and a half themselves, and they also carry up to 3 kilograms of explosives. This way of fighting, or this platform that actually works using artificial intelligence for finding, is very ideal. Missile launchers, especially air defense systems, and as soon as a target is found in a very, very wide area, these drones or other reconnaissance capabilities that exist, there might even be another reconnaissance drone somewhere else. All of these systems operate using a highly sophisticated command and control network. This involves rapid target discovery and target allocation based entirely on advanced artificial intelligence. This specific AI technology, which has been developed and used in Israel under certain classified names, is actively being deployed in this very war. The intelligence system efficiently selects the best possible target. It then finds the optimal platform from those available drones that are closer to the target. It essentially communicates, okay, you go hit this, and the drone proceeds to attack. Now, if it spots its target, the drone can visually lock onto it and attack it using an onboard optical camera it has, or some of them, utilizing advanced laser guidance, operate by shining a focused laser beam directly onto the target. The system receives its reflection and accurately homes in on it. Many of these, the video footage we see clearly shows a pulsed reflection on the target, which is exactly that active radar beam. In the more strategic and tactical phase, there are also larger drones that can be carried by heavier aircraft, such as the Airbus A330, or by standard fighter jets. While a fighter jet typically carries just one or two, the A330 can transport a much larger number. Additionally, these sophisticated drones possess a loitering mode, meaning they can fly continuously for up to 6 hours. They perform their prolonged flight high above the target area, waiting patiently to strike as soon as a hostile missile launcher is ready to fire and emerges from its hidden location. Once an enemy target, which might have been initially detected by an advanced reconnaissance platform operating from a very long distance, becomes designated as ready to fire upon, the engagement begins instantly. The operators quickly evaluate the airspace to select the best and closest of these combat drones that are already actively loitering or patrolling nearby. They seamlessly guide it directly towards that target. As a result of this integration, a highly responsive combat network is created. By constantly monitoring a significantly large area of the contested ground below, they can pinpoint any desired enemy movement very quickly and decisively attack it with virtually zero time delay, ensuring complete battlefield dominance and overwhelming tactical superiority at all times.
Mr. Nadimi, regarding conventional military targets, perhaps the overall situation is a bit clearer. However, we are increasingly hearing reports that they want to target state suppression forces specifically. From a tactical perspective, how practical and operational do you think such an approach really is on the ground, especially when it comes to individuals? Accurately distinguishing an ordinary innocent citizen from an undercover suppressor citizen seems like an incredibly complicated and risky task.
Well, exactly one of the applications of that advanced middle layer is this. A Hermes 900, for example, is flying over a neighborhood in Tehran with a number of these small drones. Using their sophisticated multispectral optical systems, well, they can very accurately distinguish the specific type of clothing. Well, naturally, if the suppression forces wear plain clothes completely to blend in and successfully hide their weapons or carry concealed handguns, the challenge grows. Apart from analyzing their possible behavior, tactical movements, or the strategic position they are standing in, naturally it's simply not possible to distinguish them from ordinary innocent civilians walking the streets. But normally, with the distinct combat uniforms they have equipped and the specific types of heavy weapons they carry in the field, or through that highly specific visual inspection and their exact tactical position on the ground, military analysts can confidently identify that this individual is a viable combat target using that Hermes 900 drone, for example. Of course, essentially all the operational details and technical capabilities of these advanced aerospace programs in Israel are strictly confidential, and these strategic conclusions are generally drawn based on various expert inferences. And also, according to the detailed catalogs that, in fact, prominent manufacturing companies like IAI have published, this advanced drone is released and can fly at a remarkably close distance above its intended target to safely monitor it. It can, so to speak, continuously monitor their daily pattern of life, even identifying their faces using state-of-the-art high-resolution cameras. When it realizes that the person it's supposed to target is really one of those groups, like, say, Bashish or IRGC members deployed there, it aggressively goes towards them and decisively does its job in the final stage. This is precisely the moment when they can safely fly over the target for a significant period of time and, truly understand the target area's unique behavioral pattern, completely finding and distinguishing individuals from each other. They can easily figure out if, say, this woman passing by is a civilian pedestrian, or if that person standing there with a keffiyeh or a weapon is a military target.
Thank you. Farzeh Nadimi, Senior Research Fellow for Defense and Security Affairs at the Washington Institute. In a new message, Prince Reza Pahlavi has asked citizens in Iran to currently refrain from being in the streets and approaching government, military, and law enforcement centers. He has also warned that the Islamic Republic uses schools, mosques, and public places to deploy suppression forces and create human shields, and has also asked government employees not to report to their workplaces.
My fellow citizens, deeply important and profoundly decisive days lie ahead of us as you carefully prepare yourselves mentally and physically for the crucial final phase of our ongoing struggle for freedom. I must strongly emphasize that, for now, you should strictly refrain from gathering or being out in the public streets. Furthermore, absolutely do not approach any government buildings, military bases, law enforcement centers, or organizational housing developments affiliated with a ruthless apparatus of state suppression. The Islamic Republic strategically uses schools, mosques, and various other civilian public places to hide their suppression forces and intentionally create civilian human shields. For your own physical protection and personal safety, I strongly urge you to stay away from such dangerous and volatile places. I also want to direct a special urgent message specifically to all government employees and civil servants. Under absolutely no circumstances should you report to your workplaces or administrative offices. You must not blindly sacrifice your precious lives and safety merely for the continued survival of the Islamic Republic. Please do not allow yourselves to be manipulated and used as human shields by a desperate regime. Do not let your daily labor and activities become weaponized tools for the violent suppression of your fellow citizens. Instead, bravely use your internal resources, institutional knowledge, and direct access to actively disrupt the process of suppression and help the people.
Political activist Ali Reza Kiani joins us from Washington. Mr. Kiani, Prince Reza Pahlavi is asking people to stay in their homes for now until the appointed time, and then, come out to the streets. He seems to be saying this with a relative sense of calm, How much information do you think he has that gives him this assurance that there's a specific time on the horizon for public protests?
I extend my greetings and respects to the great nation of Iran, and I especially congratulate the families who have lost their young ones on the demise of the IRGC and besieged thugs and ruffians. Well, he, naturally has his own specific connections. It's not like secretive either. And he, actually presents his analysis to the nation based on the data he in fact receives. But, well, the message that has been released now, in my opinion, should be understood within the context of the country's exceptional circumstances today. The country is simultaneously in a revolutionary situation and also a state of war. In such circumstances, it's natural for usual social and administrative behaviors to change for a period. His main message in these remarks that I, of course, have in front of me right now focuses on a key point, and that is preserving people's lives and preventing society from becoming a human shield for the Islamic Republic's killing apparatus. And in my opinion, as we've seen, it has several fundamental axes. One is the emphasis on people staying away from government centers, which from a security perspective is completely understandable. This point. Past years' experience has shown that the Islamic Republic uses public spaces to deploy suppression forces during moments of crisis. It's not just schools and mosques either. Now, I'll add this to his message, in my own opinion. Even some service centers, like hospitals, have in many cases become deployment sites for besieged forces, the so-called security forces. Recent reports actually also confirmed this very trend. And you saw that I think International itself also reported that after these besiegee thugs and checkpoints were targeted, they moved some of their forces under the bridges, meaning they moved the places where people come and go, or basically the checkpoints, to crowded areas. This is exactly that pattern of using civilian populations as cover and human shields, something that Hamas actually has exactly done and is doing in Gaza. Therefore, the recommendation to stay away from these places is first and foremost a recommendation to protect the lives of citizens. The issue of government employees, which was the other part of the message, is also, in my opinion, completely clear. Look, one of the pillars of survival for any authoritarian regime is its administrative network and bureaucracy, even if that bureaucrat and that administrative network are not actually interested in the nature of that regime. And if they stop actively cooperating with the suppression structure, the government's ability to manage affairs and control society will drastically decrease. For this reason, he emphasized that government employees should not show up at work and should not allow their administrative positions to be used to suppress the people. They themselves are part of these people. And this point, in my opinion, is very important because any government employee who refuses to cooperate with this cycle of killing actually disables one link in that chain. Another point, in my opinion, was in this message that those who are inside the system should actively help the people, not just stop cooperating. Many employees have access to information, to facilities and networks that can disrupt the suppression process, from slowing down administrative processes, meaning they refuse to do tasks, to preventing information transfer, or even helping people get through security pressures. In a situation where, I'm telling you, this authoritarian structure is heavily reliant on administrative obedience, it needs it, and even these small resistances can have big impacts. Let me also say another point here, given that, well, the discussion of monthly salaries, the discussion of economic conditions, the discussion of livelihoods comes up. Look, the realistic answer is that the country is not in a normal situation, in a situation where, I'm telling you, a society is simultaneously engaged in a revolutionary situation and a war situation. It's natural for a usual economic order to be disrupted for a while. In such a situation, the most important priority is the people's security and preventing people from being human shields. Monthly salaries or daily economic activity are meaningful only when the basic security of society, the security of those people, is preserved. If people's lives are in danger, what's the meaning of monthly salaries? When people can't easily cross a bridge because the Islamic Republic has actually, practically, turned that bridge into a shelter for its Basiji thugs. In my opinion, from this perspective, this point should be understood this way, that now the principle is the people's security. And as we've seen repeatedly, Prince Reza Pahlavi's statements, his analyses, his recommendations, and his messages are based on a series of documented and reliable data. And based on this, I think it's a very important point that special attention should be paid to this message.
Thank you, Washington activist Ali Reza Kiani. 4 days after the announcement of Mojtaba Khamenei's leadership in the Islamic Republic, the first message attributed to him has been published. In this message, he emphasized the continuation of war, closing the Strait of Hormuz, and continuing attacks on regional countries. The publication of this message comes while there are still no signs of Mojtaba Khamenei's level of consciousness and health status, and in this message, it's claimed that he learned of his leadership through television. Mostafa Daneshkar, an experienced political analyst joining us from Detroit, has just joined our discussion. Mr. Daneshkar, with every passing day and hour that he fails to publish a verifiable video or audio message to the public, the widespread whispers of doubt regarding his current health status inevitably grow louder. How much do you realistically think this latest message, which is now officially attributed to him, has either helped or further harmed the inherently shaky political position of the third leader of the Islamic Republic?
I extend my greetings and respects to you, the viewers and listeners of International. Look, this message was exactly an effort, a struggle, and a deliberate attempt to put an end to all the swirling rumors, ongoing speculations, and endless what-ifs surrounding this quasi-leadership. We are discussing a leader who, it seems, has found a permanent life hidden in the shadows, isn't accessible, whom you cannot see or communicate with directly. This occurs in a volatile situation where the Islamic Republic system, in its absolute entirety and totality, is facing two severe existential threats. One primary threat emerges from within, driven by the courageous people who came out into the streets. 2 months ago, the Islamic Republic committed a massacre, and again, it's possible at any moment that people will come out into the streets. And on the other hand, the external threat, the airstrike campaign by the United States and Israel. In these circumstances, the Islamic Republic's social base is, so to speak, in the most severe need for the physical presence, touch, and communication with its leader, something Ali Khamenei used to do during the 12-day war, despite difficult security conditions, by recording videos from his bunker and shelter. But now, an attempt has been made to fill this void with this message from Mojtaba Khamenei. But in my opinion, it was a failed endeavor, an unsuccessful attempt. It didn't succeed, and on the contrary, I think it fueled and increased doubts and suspicions, especially since the points he refers to are points that the Revolutionary Guard has specifically focused on during this period. It doesn't have anything new, no new point. He presented an apocalyptic view. At the beginning of his message, he criticized a section of the Ziyarat al-Yasin, whose addressee is the Imam of Time. He then spoke about the necessity for people to come out into the streets, urging them not to leave the streets empty. This message is currently a recurring theme in speeches specifically from the Revolutionary Guard and other military platforms. Finally, he stated that internal political forces should put aside their differences to maintain cohesion. And then, the issue of legitimizing controversial actions for which there is no consensus within the power bloc. I mean, we know Shamkhani, before he was killed, his opinion wasn't that the Strait of Hormuz should be closed. He's legitimizing that. Surprising actions, opening new fronts where the enemy would be caught off guard. Essentially, he's legitimizing the military bloc, something the military bloc faces problems with when trying to get consensus from other parts of the power bloc in the Islamic Republic. And now, Mojtaba Khamenei has come with this message, as the IRGC members themselves say, or whoever in the IRGC wrote this message for him, to put an end to this disagreement. He invites political forces to put aside their differences to maintain cohesion, and ultimately, he closes the door on diplomacy and negotiation, turning the act of revenge into a national matter. All of it, is defined within the framework of the Revolutionary Guard's militarism, meaning right now, this quasi-leadership and the leader who is living in the shadows has become a tool of the Revolutionary Guard. If he's even alive, if he's conscious, if his physical condition has fundamentally allowed him to even be aware of his father's death and the critical situation of the Islamic Republic system.
That point you mentioned about whether he wrote it himself or if it was written for him, I believe that's an important point. Many were raising the speculation that on the verge of the Islamic Republic's collapse, the Revolutionary Guard might seize power, either temporarily or for a longer period. Now, if there really is a situation where this third leader is in a vegetative or semi-vegetative state, how good do you think that actually is for the Revolutionary Guard? Because on paper, there's someone through whom they can convey the message they want, but in practice, it's these military personnel who hold control of the country.
Look, fundamentally, regardless of whether Mojtaba Khamenei is alive or not, this insistence that the Revolutionary Guard showed, despite the rift that existed within the power bloc for us to postpone it. We know Hassan Rouhani explicitly raised this, and people like Ali Larijani implicitly raised it, that for now, the country's affairs could be managed by a leadership council composed of Pezeshkian, Ejei, and Arafi, and the selection of the leader could be deferred until after the war. But this insistence by the Revolutionary Guard, the atmosphere they created, the media space, the social space within the social base, they transformed it within that minimal social base of the Islamic Republic into a demand by Hezbollah forces for the leader to be chosen right now. Practically, whether Mojtaba Khamenei is alive or not, he turned the leadership and the institution of leadership into a plaything, and the guardianship of the Islamic jurist, the supreme leader, into a plaything and a tool of the system of that military bloc and of the military. The thing is, even if he is alive, based on what we know of his past, his leadership and supreme leadership won't be anything more than a low-ranking operative, just taking orders from the Revolutionary Guards and the military bloc. This is a bloc, that has fundamentally defined itself for an apocalyptic battle, constantly confronting Israel, and for destroying America, actively playing a disruptive, anti-order role. I think whether he's alive right now or not, the outcome is similar. If he's not, well, it's natural that his legacy will be used to give them legitimacy. Even if he is alive, his current situation is honestly such that he couldn't really express anything more beyond or outside of these predictable things he's brought up, the points he's made. And I think, as we gradually move forward in time, whether he remains alive or not, we will inevitably face the ongoing isolation of other competing forces, allowing this particular faction of the Revolutionary Guard to become hegemonic.
Mr. Danishvar, if you could just say very, very briefly, overall, on this 13th, 14th day of the war, were you surprised that the remnants of the Islamic Republic still remain like this and have relative cohesion, or did you expect it?
No. Look, you're talking about a system that's 5 decades, almost 5 decades old. Saddam Hussein's regime, at the nadir of its legitimacy, resisted for several weeks. And if this system didn't even show this much resistance at this level, I really, really doubt we'd actually see any cohesion within, under this tip of the iceberg, under this stagnant and calm surface of the water that you perceive.
Yeah.
But, 10, 12 days, and that's for a system that spent all its capital, all its resources heavily on militarization and securitization. Honestly, if we hadn't seen even this expected outcome, I genuinely don't know what else this rigid system had to offer us. No, I wasn't surprised at all, and I think it's very natural. In fact, even sooner and faster than we initially thought, clear signs of a deep rift emerged. The Islamic Republic blatantly made those critical mistakes it really shouldn't have. Now, I'll definitely talk about those specific mistakes at another proper opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Mustafa Danishgar, political analyst from Detroit, Michigan. During a recent UN Security Council meeting regarding international sanctions on Iran, Russia's UN representative called the return of these sanctions a clear violation of international law and warned of serious consequences. On the other hand, the US representative stated to the Council that Iran could have prevented this situation, but instead rejected all proposals.
Iran had ample opportunity to prevent this outcome.
Iran had many opportunities to prevent this situation. France, Britain, and Germany proposed that the snapback mechanism be extended, provided that Iran explains its enriched uranium stockpiles and adheres to its mandatory commitments under the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, and resumes direct dialogue with the United States. All these options were put on the table in good faith, and Iran rejected them all.
More details are available in my colleague Mariam Ramati's United Nations report.
Today's Security Council meeting on Thursday was held concerning the 1737 Sanctions Committee related to Iran. This is a committee formally responsible for overseeing the implementation of UN sanctions against the Islamic Republic's nuclear and ballistic missile programs. These sanctions, we know, officially returned after the diplomatic trigger mechanism was activated. They include comprehensive arms embargoes and severe financial restrictions against specific individuals and entities related to the Islamic Republic's nuclear program. But right now, this vital committee doesn't have a designated head, and its crucial oversight work has practically stopped. So the US and European countries assert that after the snapback mechanism was officially activated, the UN sanctions that were previously suspended immediately became effective again. Consequently, they maintain that this oversight committee should remain active and continue its essential work. But Russia and China staunchly reject this, arguing that these renewed Security Council sanctions against the Islamic Republic, triggered by the disputed snapback mechanism, possess absolutely no legal basis. Because of this fundamental diplomatic disagreement, China and Russia strongly opposed appointing a head for this committee and rejected its continued work. Furthermore, they even went as far as blocking the committee's periodic status reports. During the United Nations meeting held on Thursday, the United States stated that Russia and China are intentionally obstructing this committee from remaining active. According to American representatives, this blockage stems directly from their deepening military ties with Iran. Washington leveled serious accusations against both Russia and China, asserting that these two nations are actively receiving combat drones from Tehran and securing lucrative military contracts. Consequently, the US argues, these countries are systematically preventing the full implementation of international sanctions against Iran. Regardless of these pressing allegations, deep disagreements still persist among the permanent members of the Security Council. Nevertheless, the United States is actively trying to continue applying intense diplomatic pressures here at the UN, simultaneously with targeted military attacks on the Islamic Republic's positions. Mariam Ramati, United Nations Headquarters, New York.
Okay, before the end of the program, we have a short moment to go to Israel. We have live images from the first press conference of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who is naturally addressing the issue of the war with the Islamic Republic and Hezbollah in Lebanon. Unfortunately, his speech is in Hebrew, and we don't have simultaneous translation. But naturally, we are monitoring it. Our colleagues in the region will also be listening to it. And as soon as he says important things about Iran, you can see and hear the details on TV, as well as on social media and the Iran International website. You are seeing images from the first press conference of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in the second week of the war with the Islamic Republic and Hezbollah in Lebanon. And with that, we've reached the end of tonight's 24 program. Thank you for watching us. You can also watch this program again a little later on Iran International's YouTube channel.